gentlemen, we have an interesting debate tonight. We're going to be talking about morality. We have TJump and Godless Girl as well. Thanks to everybody that is showing up. I've seen a lot of people in the live chat so far. Make sure and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, so we're just going to do a simple format, 5-minute openings or so. Like, just take, I'm not going to, like, time it or anything. Just give us your opening. And then they want to just jump straight into the discussion. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that this channel tries to be unbiased, and we want to let you, no matter what your background is, come here without having to worry about being ridiculed or whatsoever. So if we could, let's just be our friendly selves in the live chat. I know that it gets heated, but let's try that. Try principle to charity there. All right, so TJump, would you like to go first, or do you think Godless Girl should start?
Yeah, I can go first. I don't mind. All right, so the topic is objective morality. I am a moral realist, like most philosophers, so I believe there is an objective morality. There are true and false statements about moral claims in the universe. The common misconception that most atheists have is that you can't have moral realism without like a god or some kind of existing thing in the universe, which isn't true. Many philosophers hold moral realism as a legitimate position, including many consequentialists and utilitarians. There are many different ways to have moral realism be true without any kind of a ontology of morality. You don't need it to be existing in the universe. It can just be an abstract or kind of a principle, like do what's best for society or something. So there's lots of different ways to have objective morality. You don't need a god or a law of nature or anything for it. Many philosophers do hold that position. My particular viewpoint is that the principle we should be holding to is that any involuntary imposition of will is immoral, and we should avoid doing that because it moves us away from the best of all possible worlds, which is a world where there is no involuntary imposition of will. That would be the best world. The inability to force anyone to do anything they do not consent to would be a good thing. So no one could ever be forced to do anything they don't want to. That would be a better world than what we have. And as long as you grant that, then you pretty much grant objective morality. That's all you really need. You don't really need a law or a god or anything. It's just there's a better way the world could be, and that's it. And that is essentially my position.
All right. Thanks so much for that, TJump. Now, Godless Girl, let's get your opening.
Yeah, I thought this was a debate. He just stated his position. I didn't hear an argument or any justification for it. I mean, I don't know. Are we not supposed to give an argument? Is the opening debate just the opening statement just stating our position? Am I only supposed to state my position?
Well, we were just going to get where he's coming from for the audience, and then where you're coming from for the audience, and then you guys can jump straight into...
So do I just state my position, or do I give an argument for the opening statement?
Yeah, either one. Whatever you want to do to open, whatever you feel right about.
Okay, so I'm a moral non-cognitivist. I don't think the moral claims are true or false. I think when somebody makes a moral statement, that I don't see what standard they could be using other than their preferences. So it's just a preference, and preferences cannot be true or false. So moral claims cannot be true or false. And as far as his position, I would have to ask some clarifying questions, but I need to know what the first premise of your argument is. I don't understand why you believe that. What are you appealing to? So go ahead.
Oh, okay, that was it?
Go right ahead, Don.
Sure. So you're a moral non-cognitivist. I think that moral statements are perfectly reasonable and coherent. I don't think
they're what?
Coherence. Like you're non-cognitivist, which means they are not moral sentences do not make sense.
Well, I don't think that they're true or false propositions. I think it's somebody like when you say it's a preference. So when you say something like the flavor of lemon is bad, that's all that you're saying. What else could it be?
Okay.
If they're trying to make a claim about, are you making a claim about the world, the way the world ought to be?
Sort of yes, sort of no. But so you're not a moral non-cognitivist in the fact that you think the sentences don't make sense. You just think they're subjective.
No, I don't think that they're true or false propositions. I'm an emotivist. So it's like when somebody says boo to something, that's what they're saying. It's like a claim about a mental state, their mental state.
Right. Well, that's fine. A motivist is fine, but that's not the same as a non-cognitivist. A non-cognitivist.
What are
is
you
the same.
talking about? An emotivist is a subset of fucking.
So
What are
a
you
non-cognitivist
You're
says
just an
that
idiot.
moral
Fucking
statements.
emotivism is a non-cognitivist
So
position.
non-cognitivism is the position that, like, it doesn't make sense to say moral systems.
Yeah, it's not a true or false proposition. Emotivism is a non-cognitivist position. Just go fucking Google it, retards. Fucking Google. The people in the audience, go Google it. You're an idiot.
So you agree they do make sense. The sentences are coherent.
I don't know when somebody expresses a preference, I don't think that it's incoherent. It's just not true or false. So what is your position? If you disagree with me, like, what is your argument? Give me the first premise of your argument.
I think that the world moral facts can be true because the world would be better in certain ways.
What is just the first premise? Moral facts can be true is the first premise, or that's the conclusion?
I believe the moral facts being true. I'm not going to waste my time putting it into a section.
I believe moral facts can be true. That's the premise. That's the first premise.
I'm not going to put any premises in. I don't care. You can do it yourself.
You're not going to give me an argument.
Nope.
You're not going to give a syllogism.
Nope.
You're just going to make claims.
Yep. I believe moralism is true. We have.
I thought this was a debate.
It is a debate. I don't.
Do you have an argument for your position, or are you just going to make claims?
I already did. That was my opening. There were arguments in there. If you couldn't recognize them, that's your fault.
Wait. What? Say it again. Then I didn't hear the. Is it? Do you have like? Is it going to be evidence, or what kind of justification is it that you claim to have?
Intuitive, moral intuition.
An intuition is neither rational or irrational. It's just an intuition, so it's not justification.
Intuitions can be justification. Many times it's used in philosophy all the time in justification.
Look, but it's going to make it it makes it an irrational position then.
No.
That's not, why should I? It's not. Look, that's like internal too. What, do you have any external justification?
No, I don't have any external justification. No, I don't have any.
So why would anybody accept it because you have an intuition about it? You feel like an intuition is almost basically a feeling. You feel like it's true. TJump feels like it's true. Therefore, I should believe it.
Most people feel like it's true. Like most people see things and most people feel things.
That you're just appealing to majority.
Yes.
Like what? What is it going to be? Something like, let me try to steel man your argument for you since you seem to have a hard time. So what is it going to be? Something like, most people feel that an imposition on will is what, bad? Do you want to use the word bad?
Sure.
Okay, so therefore it's bad?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so you're appealing to majority.
Yes, like when the majority.
Yeah, but you're claiming it's okay. So let's go through that. Let's go through that. First, you're appealing to majority, which is you committed an error in reasoning. It's a fallacy.
No.
Yeah, appealing to majority is a fallacy. I think you're a troll. Which, if this is you fucking trolling, you're my new favorite person because that's amazing. But anyway.
So again, no.
But anyway, I wasn't. Excuse me, I wasn't finished.
But you got it wrong. You're confusing my argument for an appeal to a majority as if that is the argument. Like no, like if a lot of people see things.
I just stated it as most people believe that, therefore it's true, and you agree to that.
And you're confusing that as the appeal to majority fallacy because you don't understand the difference. Like in science, the majority of people, if they can do a test and get the same result, we trust the majority in that case.
Well, are you talking about legitimate appeals to authority? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Again, so this is just like if lots of people see a horse, we say, yeah, that horse probably exists. If one person says they don't see the horse, we probably go, yeah, that guy's probably nuts. But if it's the other way around and lots of people don't see a unicorn and one person sees a unicorn, then we reject the claim of the one person. So we do, in many cases, go with the majority, like if everyone sees something there.
No, in the case of the horse, you're believing it because of background information on people, right? But look.
No, what?
Look, if it's dependent on people feeling that it's true, then how the fuck is it objective? It's by definition subjective. If that's the standard, objective means independent it's mind independent. It's independent of what anybody thinks. So how can that be your argument? Because if it's objective, your claim has to be that even if no minds existed, it would still be true. So how the fuck are you going to appeal to what people think and feel? And you're not even like. It's just you're just saying it's an intuition. So you're just saying most people feel that way, therefore it's true. Feelings are neither true or false, sir.
No, they can definitely be true or false. But so again,
what does it mean? What does it mean for a feeling to be
that
true or false? What does that mean?
It can mean lots of different things, but that's not my position here. So again, you can have a fact that is true about the world, which is true about minds. You can say minds have experience. Now that's not
that's an objective fact.
So it's true independent of the minds, but it's still true about the minds. So the minds having feelings is another fact that's true about the minds and can still be objective.
Right, but it's not contingent upon what it would be true that minds existed, even though if some like delusional person believed that no minds existed. It's not dependent. That fact,
So again, the claim was is that
look,
a mind had.
I'll tell you why that's objective, because it would be true even if then you annihilated all minds. It would still be objectively true that at that point in time they had existed. That it's not dependent on minds. It would still be true that they had existed when they stopped existing.
I'm not talking about existing.
But it wouldn't still be true that it would be bad to impose on will if people existed, if nobody existed, because.
So I didn't.
Are you not following what I'm saying?
I didn't say the mind exists. I said a mind has conscious experience.
So what?
So that's an objective fact that is contingent on a mind. So you can.
It's not contingent on a mind. It's not. That claim is not contingent on a mind, because if that mind stopped existing, that's the statement that it had existed would still be true. It wouldn't be dependent on the continued existence of the mind.
I didn't say it had existed. That was never a part of my argument. So I don't know why you're bringing that up.
Wait, I didn't hear you. What?
My argument is that a mind has conscious experience. That is an objective fact, which is true contingently on the mind, which means if the mind stops existing,
it's not. It's not true.
Let's let him finish, and then I'll let you come right back in.
Sorry.
So again, you can say it is objectively true that I like ice cream. Like that is a fact that is objectively true, but it is subjectively contingent on my mind. So you can have objective facts that are contingent on minds.
It's not contingent on what anybody believes.
Okay, that's not what I said. I said you can have objective facts that are contingent on minds.
Right. But if that mind were to stop existing, would it not still be true that it had existed even if no minds no longer existed?
Sure, but that was never a part of my argument.
So right. So it's not actually contingent. It's not contingent on the mind itself. It's not. It's
if the mind never existed.
It's not true in virtue of what the mind believes.
Okay, so again,
it wouldn't matter if minds existed, but they somehow believe that no minds existed. It would still be true that they did it.
Has nothing to do with my argument, so I don't know why you keep repeating that.
Have you given an argument?
Yes.
But again, let's back up. What's the first premise?
So again, my claim is that moral facts are true, and we can say that lots of people feel morality. That's an objective fact. Lots of people feel morality.
The first premise is moral facts.
I'm not going to give you any premises. I'm not even going to try to. It's a waste of my time. So
how is that wasting your time?
So you can have objective facts about minds. They are descriptive of minds and the things that minds feel. Yes.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's mind dependent in the sense that it's dependent on what people believe.
Right.
You're just equivocating.
So it's not what realism is.
You're equivocating on what mind dependent means.
No, I'm not. You are making a very confused mistake here. So my position is not morality is dependent on what people think. That is not my position. That's moral subjectivism. I'm not a moral subjectivist. So
I'm sorry. I misunderstood you then, because I thought that you said that it was true, that it's true that imposing on people's will is bad because most people believe that it is, or most people feel that it is.
The fact that most people feel that it is like the fact that most people see a horse. This is a discernible piece of evidence, like induction.
Right.
Most people see it. It's not true because of this.
Most people believe in God. Does that mean God exists? What the fuck is the matter with you?
No, again, so most people have a sense experience of a thing, means the thing exists. It doesn't tell us anything about the thing.
Most people have an intuition that God exists. Is that justification for me? So if me and you were debating the existence of God, and I came in here and said, my argument is most people have an intuition that God exists, therefore God exists. Wouldn't I look like a stupid, retarded, foolish, asinine moron, Tom?
Like you would do now? Yes, you do.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing.
If you were claiming
what is the disanalogy?
If you were claiming that most people have intuitions of God, and then you said, therefore intuitions of God exist, that would be a reasonable argument. That's the argument I'm making.
No, you're not saying that. The conclusion isn't that most people have intuitions about morality. The conclusion is that it's true that imposing on someone's free will is bad. And you're saying that it's true that imposing on someone's free will is bad because most people have an intuition that God exists, or that that it's bad. How is that what's the disanalogy when I say?
Again, if most people see a horse, the horse doesn't exist because most people see it. It exists independently, but it's good evidence that it does exist that people see it.
Look, that's just taking testimony, right? About the claim that they saw the horse. So background knowledge on people shows that if people don't have reasons to lie about having saw a horse. So in your experience, it's like in an induction.
No idea what you're talking about now. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Look, tell me what the disanalogy is.
So again, if most people see a horse, the horse doesn't exist because people see it. That's not the argument. I'm saying there is a horse there, and it's good evidence that the horse is there that most people see it. I'm not making the argument that the horse is there because people see it. No, that's not it.
Well, look, the justification for why do you believe the horse exists can't be that people see it, right? Because that would be begging the question.
No,
it would have to be that because sir, please calm down. It would have to be that it would have to be that because they're testifying, you believe it because they're testifying to it. You can't say the horse. I believe the justification for the horse existing is that most people saw it, because most people seeing a horse is just presupposing that it's true that there's a horse. So what the fuck are you talking about? But anyway, so you look confused. I don't know if you really are, but I'm sure the people in the fucking audience follow that.
I'm definitely confused about a lot of things right now, but I have no idea what your argument is making. So again, it's perfectly reasonable.
Look, you can't say that your justification that there's a horse is that people saw the horse, right? It would have to be they testified that they saw the horse, because if you say that they saw the horse, look, then that assumes that the horse exists, right? The justification is assuming that you can't see something if it's not there.
Yes, you can. Those are called delusions.
An illusion is it's not something that's coming from the external world, right? You're saying that the horse actually exists in the external world. You can have the experience of a horse without the horse being there, but the claim is that the horse actually exists, not just that people are experiencing the horse.
Yes.
So you can't say that the reason that the horse, or that your justification for the horse being there, is that people see the horse.
Yes, you can. That's perfectly reasonable.
No, it has to be their testimony.
Like if I wanted to make an argument that Taj Mahal exists, I can say I know a bunch of people who saw the Taj Mahal. That is perfectly reasonable for me to believe the Taj Mahal exists.
No, it's the fact that they're testifying to it. If you say, it's like asking, why do I believe that my phone is right here? And me saying because I see my phone. That's not justification.
Yes, it is. It's justification for you, and it's justification for me. So anytime you say I saw, it's always testimony. So whenever I say people saw something, it's always going to be their testimony of the thing that they're seeing. I obviously can't see through their eyes, but I have no idea why that's relevant to this conversation.
So let's just move on from that. So so let me just restate the argument to be sure I'm understanding right. You're saying that your justification for believing that imposing on will is bad is that most people feel that it's bad.
No, most people see it is the reason to believe morality is real. And then I go through all this stuff to get to the conclusion of my specific morality.
Okay, so if we were talking, tell me what the disanalogy is with God. So I can say most people have the intuition that God exists. Is that a justification of believing God?
No.
So what's the disanalogy?
Because one is not claiming that something external to them exists in reality. Like, so if I said, I feel like I like ice cream, that's clearly in my head, but it's in the head of everyone who likes ice cream. Where if I say God
exists. You think that morality is not external, like you think it's internal?
Yes.
What does that even mean for it to be internal?
Part of our minds.
So wait,
of society, abstract concept.
If no minds existed, morality wouldn't exist?
Yes.
Wait, I thought it was objective.
It is.
But it's dependent on the existence of minds?
Right. So remember, you can have objective facts about minds, like the mind is conscious. If there is no mind, then it wouldn't be conscious. So it's contingent on the minds existing. If there are no minds, then there are no conscious minds.
So if
Morality
most
is the same
people
thing.
believe that there wasn't morality, then there wouldn't be morality?
There would be no evidence of it, that's for sure.
I just don't understand. That's just an appeal. I don't understand how that's not an appeal to the majority.
If most people don't see a horse, that's pretty good reason to think there is no horse. There's no evidence of a horse. So our evidence of morality is the fact that we have moral intuitions. The fact that most people feel morality is our evidence of morality. And we don't have any other evidence of it other than people's feelings.
Look, so let's, instead of using the, with the horse, say, why do you believe that X happened in the past? I can't say it's because I remember it happening, right? Because that would be, look, no, because if you saying that it's an actual memory, then that's assuming that it actually occurred, right?
No.
Can you have a memory? Can you have a memory of something that never occurred?
Yes.
It's not an actual memory then.
They're called false memories. We have all kinds of those that happen in humanity all the time.
That's just gibberish. A false memory is actually just gibberish.
It's an actual thing in neurology and psychology. It is a literal condition.
No, I know that. But if we break that down, the false memory, what does it even really mean? Because a memory is the reoccurrence of an experience of the past. But if that event never happened in the past, then it wouldn't be a reoccurrence of an event in the past, would it?
Right. So a memory is a thing that we remember as having happened in the past. And there's a part of our brain that saves things as events that happened in the past. And there are mistakes of the brain where it can save things that it says happened in the past that didn't happen in the past. And that's what a false memory is when it saves something.
So, but that's, you said that's what a memory is. Is it having happened in the past?
Well, I didn't say that. You said that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Can you repeat what you said?
So your brain has a thing where it saves memories as having happened in the past.
What's a memory?
It's just a thing we remember as having happened in the past.
But did it actually have to happen?
No, that's what a false memory is.
So it's just, wouldn't it just merely be an experience then?
What? I have no idea what you're talking about now. What is an experience?
Sorry, hang on a second. For this part?
Yeah.
Do I have an echo?
I can't hear one.
Okay.
You do have a really bright light right behind you. If you could move the shade.
Oh, no, that's, sorry, I can just move her. That's just the light shining in the glass.
Oh, gotcha.
Can we just do the Q&A now? Do you have questions for me, Tom?
Sure. Do you think the world would be better without rape?
I don't know what I would prefer it, but I'm not sure exactly. It would depend on what we would have to examine what we meant by better. I wouldn't say, I would never use the term good or bad.
What do you mean you wouldn't use the term good or bad?
Like, I wouldn't say that, because I think that entails an ought. So I wouldn't say we ought live in a world where there's no rape.
Why would you not say that? Why would you say you would not say we ought to live in a world that has no rape? Why would you say that?
Because I wouldn't be able to justify that belief.
Okay, well, just forget justifying it. Would you feel that world would be better?
Well, better or good?
I consider those synonyms.
Oh, you think that good, what you mean is by good is better? Like morally good is better? So what does better mean?
I use those as synonyms. They mean the same thing.
Right. So I'm asking for the definition, not another synonym. I'm asking for the definition.
Less bad, less immoral. What specifically are you asking?
Yeah. What's the definition of bad? Give me the definition of good and bad. Don't give me a synonym. Just give me the definition.
Oh, you mean like just the dictionary definition of good?
And on your position, what does good and bad mean? Does it entail an odd?
The least involuntary imposition of will is good, or involuntary imposition of will is bad, and assisting will is good.
All right, I'm sorry. Before you respond, unfortunately, they were unable to hear me in the chat. What I said earlier was, if you tag me with your questions at Converse Contender, I'll ask them your questions at the end. All right, I'm sorry.
So why is it? You're just saying that what is good is the non-imposition of will.
Right. So imposition of will is bad, and then assisting wills is good. The opposite.
Right. So what is that? I don't know what that means. The good. I still don't know what that means.
Helping people.
Wait, no, but what does the word good mean?
So in my model, it means assisting people, helping people. It's like moral means to assist a will. It's literally what goodness is. Are you asking for like the actual dictionary definition of the word good, or was specifically what good is in my model?
I'm not like, is it an ought claim? Like ought we not impose on people's will?
No, oughts are not in my model. I don't use oughts. They're purely descriptive.
So if somebody were to impose on somebody's will, they wouldn't be blameworthy.
I don't know. I don't use blameworthy. I just use description. So if someone was to impose on someone's will, they would be immoral.
So are people morally responsible?
If as a determinist, no. They are, we would have to treat them as if they are morally responsible in order for the safety of others, but there is no actual kind of like universal moral responsibility thing. There's not.
So what are you saying other than you don't like the imposition of will?
What do you mean? What am I saying?
What claim are you making about it? It just seems like you prefer wills not to be imposed on.
I'm claiming that it would be objectively better if the world did not have involuntary imposition of will. I'm claiming that is something that is true, independent of preference.
But why? What are you appealing to that's not a preference?
Our moral intuition and moral progress. Those are the only kinds of evidence we have. Pretty bad, but that's all we got.
Moral progress. So wait, it's not a preference. And it's better. Why? It's not because you feel it's better.
No, it's because it would be better for everyone. Just all living things, all conscious things.
No, I understand that's the claim. I'm asking what standard are you appealing to?
I'm not appealing to any standard.
When it comes to better, what standard are you appealing to?
I'm not appealing to a standard. I'm looking at the evidence and trying to make a principle that describes the evidence and where it leads to.
Say that again?
I'm looking at the evidence. I plotted out on a little line graph.
What's the evidence?
Moral intuition, moral progress.
Why would I grant that what somebody else, why would I grant the moral intuitions of others?
I'm not sure what you mean. Like it exists.
Like, should I believe this?
Well, no, I'm not saying you should believe anyone else's moral intuitions. I'm saying if you take the collection of all people's moral intuitions and you plot them out on a graph, this is what it seems to indicate. So it's not like you should believe.
No, I'm asking, like you're supposed to be justifying the claim, right? So I'm asking for the justification.
That is the justification. So if we take all moral progress and moral intuition and we plot it out on a graph, like evidence. What is even moral progress? What does that mean? If we look throughout time and we see moral changes throughout societies and cultures that seem to expand the horizons of morality and apply more generally to people with less imposition of will, like women's rights, LGBT rights.
But why would I grant that any of that is the way the world, and you're not saying that's the way the world ought be?
No, oughts aren't in my model. Mine is purely descriptive. It's saying if you impose, you're immoral, and if you help, you're moral, but it doesn't tell you anything about oughts. Oughts are just subjective things afterwards.
So somebody that comes along and says, well, I don't like that. What is your going to be objection to them?
I'm not going to object to them. It's not about what they like. It's a descriptive thing. So if you kill someone and you're immoral and you don't like
what
that,
if they're claiming the exact opposite?
they can claim whatever they want. I'm going to appeal to the evidence and say the evidence indicates my conclusion more than theirs.
What if they say that like suffering is better and everything?
I'm going to say that their conclusion does not follow the evidence and mine does, and so mine's better.
So like if they're saying that what is better is suffering, and then they're like so the torturing leads to suffering, and the whatever you said is leading away from torturing, then that's bad. What are you going to say to that person?
I'm going to say mine follows the evidence and yours doesn't. So it's like if someone says the world is flat and someone says the world is round, I'm going to say I'm going to follow the evidence, and you can disagree if you want. That's nice, but I'm going to go ahead and follow the evidence.
I think we're just talking past each other. So
you mean like you asked me to try
to the imposition of will. So you're saying the imposition of will is bad.
Yes.
What if somebody comes along and says it's good?
That's fine.
If you're just defining what is good as, if you're just using that to be synonymous with the imposition of will, then what if somebody just comes along and says the bad is synonymous with the imposition of will?
Right. I'm going to say there's two possibilities. Either one, the definition of good is imposition of will, or the definition of good is non-imposition of will. And I'm going to say the way we resolve this difference is we look at the evidence, we plot it out on a line graph, draw a line to connect the dots and see which one it points to. And I'm going to say, look, it points to mine. If we look at all the moral intuition, moral progress, all the evidence, it indicates this way is the correct way.
But no, you've only just defined the good as the imposition of will, though.
No,
But
it's
what
a
if I define
of the evidence? It's not just me defining it. It's a conclusion of the evidence. I'm not just arbitrarily defining it this way.
No, I'm talking about the definition of good.
Yeah. So that's the conclusion.
So what if somebody comes along and says the definition of good is the not the imposition of will? And you're saying it's the non-imposition of will.
Right. I'm saying that's not what the evidence indicates. Therefore, that is wrong.
No, I'm not asking you about evidence. It doesn't matter. Like, let's assume that all the evidence you're talking about is there, but we're disagreeing on the definition.
Okay. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean here. So like if someone's disagreed with the definition of energy and said, no, Einstein, I disagree with your definition of energy. And Einstein says, well, I have all this evidence and it works and it makes, and describes the world. And someone else comes along and says, no, I just disagree with that definition of energy. Einstein just can be, well, you're an idiot. I don't really care. Like, okay. And my response is going to be the same. Like if you disagree with my definition of good, then you're not following the evidence, just like someone who disagrees with the definition of energy is not following the evidence. Or are you asking me to like, what would I do to try and convince them of my model or something?
Look, the good is it a descriptive or a prescriptive claim?
Descriptive. Everything in my model is descriptive. There are no prescriptions.
And good, the definition of good is the imposition of will, or the non-imposition of will.
Yeah.
And is it irreducible?
I don't know what that means. What do you mean irreducible?
Like, is it a semantic primitive?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean reducible?
Is there anything, you're just taking it to be synonymous with the imposition of will? So when you're saying that, oh, like the LGBT thing or whatever is good, you're just saying the LGBT movement is the non-imposition of will.
Essentially, yes. I'd be more specific. Right. It would be the removal of restrictions against the LGBT.
I don't understand how you're saying anything other than that. Are you saying anything other than it's not an imposition of will? Because if you're just taking good to be synonymous with that, then you're not really saying anything.
Well, I'm saying that if it's good, if you take like two actions and you say this action is good, then that means there is less imposition of will in that action. So you can define it.
I thought you said that it was synonymous.
Yes. That's what they mean. So like if Bob is a bachelor, then you also know Bob is not married. So if you say the LGBT community, something good happens to the LGBT community, then you know that some restrictions that were on their will have been removed. They have been given more freedoms. They are no longer being imposed upon involuntarily.
So you're not saying that the imposition on will is good, because you wouldn't say like a synonym is a synonym in the I'm sorry. I don't know where I was going with that.
Whenever you guys get ready, just let me know and we'll head into the Q&A section.
Okay, we can move to the. Sorry, guys. I'm really sleep deprived. I have.
You guys, do you want
We can
a
move
chance
the
to wrap
Q&A.
up, or do you want to just jump straight in? Either of you guys want like a closing?
Yeah,
I want a rematch.
I can try to summarize my points. Sure. So, I believe moral realism is true because I believe there is evidence of morality. I think our moral intuitions and moral progress is evidence that morality exists, kind of like evidence of gravity is stuff falling. We see stuff fall. We can then plot out the evidence of say, well, what is the rate of things falling? And then we can try to make a principle that describes the rate of falling. And so my argument that moral realism is true is that we can look at the evidence of morality, which is our moral intuition and moral progress. We can plot it out on a line graph, just like for gravity, and then try to create a principle that describes where this line, the picture of the lines, when you connect the dots, where it's leading to. And that's what my position is that we can look at the evidence, connect the dots, create a principle that describes the phenomenon, and that's morality. Just like in gravity, you look at the evidence, connect the dots, and create a principle of F equals ma to describe gravity. But what it actually is, Newton didn't know anything about gravity. He didn't know what it was. He didn't care. It's not like appealing to a standard of God to describe morality. He's just describing what it does. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm describing what morality does, which is leading to the best of all possible world things, the non-involuntary position.
All right, Godless Girl, would you like a couple minutes to wrap up, or?
No, I'm sorry. My thoughts were really scattered because I'm really sleep deprived. I want to challenge Tom. I'm sorry I got yelled during the debate. That's just my personality. I do that when I'm not even. Well, I mean, you talked to me before, so I would really love a rematch, though.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely set that up.
Okay.
And I guess until round 2, we'll go ahead and jump into the Q&A because we do have a lot of questions. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. We have our first question is actually a super chat from Stephen Anthony Jolly. Thanks so much for your $1.99 super chat. It says, "Hey you," and it has a pear. So pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for the support to the channel. Second, Stupid Whore Energy. Thank you so much for your $5 super chat. Stupid Whore Energy says, "Can you experience horse?" I think this is the rate of. I think this is the speed of light. Okay. I'm not sure. I know that the little c represents the speed of light, but it says.
Could you read it again? What is
Yeah.
it? The actual question?
Can you experience horse, the speed of light, okay, without believing in horses? Or maybe that's C0K. I'm not sure. Without believing in horses. All right, we'll move on. I'm gonna guess that's a trolling.
Yeah, I figured out what that meant. It's not what you thought it meant.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to I was trying to joke around about it because I didn't want to come out and say we're trying to keep it PG on this channel. If we can. Adam Frienden says, "How do you know your moral feelings are right? What is the justification for Tom's beliefs?"
The moral intuition and moral progress of society. It's not my moral feelings. It's not based on me at all. It's based off of the collection of moral intuition and moral progress of all societies throughout all time.
All right, thanks so much for that response, Tom. Tryhard Supreme says, "Godless is a wreck. LOL. What a oblivious woman." It's just kind of a troll. Do you want to respond to that at all, or you want to just move past it?
Oblivious, like, is unaware. I don't know what he means unaware of.
I'm not sure. It was probably just a troll. If you want to just move forward, we'll.
I have a lot of haters all over.
We all do. All right. Next is S.J. Thomason says, "Converse, how does TJump ground our objective morality? Consequentialism? How does he get past circular reasoning?"
Well, there's a couple things to that. One is that you don't need a ground at all. Like for when Newton described gravity, he had no ground for gravity. He was just describing the phenomenon. He didn't know what caused it. He didn't know if it was actually a thing or not. So you don't need a ground for anything to have an objective model. You just need a principle that describes a phenomenon. Secondly, you can ground it in lots of different things. You can ground it in a Platonic object, a law of nature, an abstract concept. You can ground it in all kinds of things. I'm not a consequentialist, but consequentialists do have objective moral realists who do ground objectivity in consequential principles, so that's not really a problem. In regards to the circular reasoning thing, all reasoning in all forms of logic rest on one of three kinds of justification. One is foundationalism or dogmatism, which is just say it so and just be done. Second is circular reasoning, where it justifies itself. And third is infinite regress. Those are the only three options. Everything you do is going to fall back onto one of those three, no matter what. I'm not sure which one mine would fall into, because I'm essentially just using the scientific method. So whichever one the scientific method goes to is the one I'm using. But yeah, so it's not less supported than God's hypothesis. The God hypothesis also fails, and one of these three falls into one of these three justifications. So it's not any more or less justified in that sense.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tom. Stupid Whore Energy had another $5 super chat that says, you can still deal with bad brains under, I'm not sure if she means the punk band or not. You can still deal with bad brains under no free will, or I should say faulty brains under the standard of human well-being.
Yeah, that's totally right. So you can hold people accountable even though they aren't actually at fault. So it's something to do with their brain chemistry, which is causing them to do things which will hurt others. And so we have to confine them just like we have to confine a rabid bear or something. And so they're not blameworthy. They don't have some kind of extra property where it's they're at fault. It's just how their brain works. And we have to then hold them accountable for how their brain works. So yeah.
Are you saying like just quarantine them?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for that response, Tom. We had another super chat come in. Sorry, let's see. From Kyle's Lawyer. Thanks so much, Kyle's Lawyer, for your super chat. I'm sorry, I just missed it here. Okay. He says, let children run. Don't impose their will.
Yeah, if we lived in the best world possible, we wouldn't have to force them to not run into the streets because the streets couldn't hurt them anymore. Like, that's kind of the point. So that we only restrict them because there's a really bad consequence if we let them run into the streets, which is they get hit by a car. So if we get rid of the consequence, there'd be no reason to stop them from running into the streets. But yeah, why does Kyle's Lawyer use a picture that looks exactly like Jim Majors?
That picture does look like a Jim Majors a little bit, like maybe Kyle with Jim Majors' mustache. He also had another super chat, $5 super chat that I missed. Sorry about that. And thanks for your super chats, Kyle's Lawyer. It says, TJump's argument is the horse is there because I said it's there.
No, the horse is there because lots of people see it. If lots of people see something in reality, it's pretty reasonable to conclude it's there, as long as it's not something extravagant that we have no basis for in reality. So as long as we have a basis for it existing, and someone says they saw it, like I saw a dog, you can reasonably conclude there was a dog there. It's completely reasonable.
All right, thanks so much for that response, Tom. Labzer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, had a 2CA super chat. Says, how does diverse moral intuition explain homosex? I'm not sure if that
explain what?
Homosexuality?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a question or a troll. That might actually be a legit question. How does
morality doesn't explain homosexuality. Homosexuality is a product of evolution. It has nothing to do with morality directly. It's not really any different from asexuality or heterosexuality. It's just a product of evolution. It's not specifically to do with morality at all. Or unless he's asking about the moral progress thing, which is the LGBTQ rights. And that's one example of moral progress, which there's lots of others like women rights and workers' rights and universal health care and helping the elderly, helping people who are mentally or physically handicapped, and animal rights, vegetarianism, veganism. There's tons and tons of examples of moral progress, which is just the expanding of moral agenthood to lots of other things that we didn't previously consider to have that property. It's not specifically, it doesn't have anything to do with LGBT specifically.
All right, thanks so much for that. Brian Stevens with a Patreon question says to Godless Girl, what is your best argument for morality in a godless world?
That question is to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that person's a retard because that's not my position. My position is that my moral claims are not true or false. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, because you're a moral non-cognitivist.
An emotivist, which is a moral non-cognitivist, which Tom said that wasn't the case. You can just Google it.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Had a super chat come in, $2 from Nathan Artwork. Thanks so much, Nathan, for your support. Says, can there be a good time to be raped, Gigi?
A good time to be raped?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's asking is it always bad to be raped?
I don't think I think when people say rape is bad, that they're just saying that they don't like it. So he said the question is there a good time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, is there a time that they like it?
Or like, is there a time where it's permissible? I think.
Well, I don't think anything is morally permissible or impermissible. But I guess you could say since it's just a preference, I guess you could say it's good when they're expressing that they like it when a rape turns into enjoyable. Well, I guess then at that point it would no longer be rape because then it would be consensual. So I don't know. I guess no, there's not a time when.
So, but if there can't ever be a time when rape is good, doesn't that seem to be that rape is objectively bad? Wouldn't that statement then follow?
No, I'm saying that I guess you actually, no, I'm wrong. You could have enjoyment, like a woman can have an orgasm when she's being raped, so that part of her would be enjoying it. But I guess the preference to be raped wouldn't be there, so.
All right, thanks so much for that response. We had another super chat come in from Melee Time. It says, does Godless have an argument? Seem like no. I'm not sure if you want to respond to that. It might just be a troll remark.
Yeah, I gave my argument I gave my formal argument in the beginning of the stream more than once, like with premises and a conclusion.
All right, perfect.
I can restate it. I can restate it if they want.
Sure. You want to go ahead and restate it real quick for the people who just came in?
Yeah, when moral claims are just preferences, somebody expressing a preference. Preferences can be neither true or false. So moral claims are not either true or false.
All right, thanks so much for that. Pants L. Jones. And by the way, I am getting everybody's questions, even if I don't message you right back and say I got you. I'm trying to get them all, but there's like a ton of questions. So Pants L. Jones asks, Converse, for TJ, are all actions that do not impose will involuntarily moral? Or does your model only explain how to be immoral, not moral?
Moral is the assistance of will. So if you're helping someone with their will, that will be moral. I mean, I use immoral as the way to just explain it, but then you can just mirror all of everything I say to the moral side to understand what morality is. There's also, like, if I pick up a rock, you didn't consent to me picking up the rock. That would not be immoral, but it also wouldn't be moral. It'd just be amoral. So it has moral, amoral, and immoral options. The moral option would just be assisting someone. If you need help and I helps you to achieve your will, that would be moral.
All right, thanks so much for that. Jeremy Taylor, thank you for your $1 super chat that just came in. Appreciate that. It looks like there was no message with that, but we also got another super chat from Nathan Artwork. Says for $5 says, so would you allow someone to rape you, Gigi, if it could be a good thing? I don't know if this is appropriate or to really. If that might just be a little too far. Unless you take that seriously and you want to answer.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, it's just, would you allow, if that is the case, would you allow someone to rape you if it could be a good thing?
Well, if you were allowing it, then it would seem like not rape by definition.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think so, because the consent aspect. All right, let's move on. We have a question from David Donahue. Says, Converse, for both, do you believe that morality is a spectrum for every person based on their education, experience, and observation, etc., of the world around them?
It's for both of us?
Yeah.
Well, I would say yes to that because I think it's just preferences. So yeah, I do think preferences are influenced by those things.
All right.
I think there's subjective morality that they learned would be yes, but I think there is an objective morality that is not no.
All right. Thanks so much for that. Jeremy Taylor, thanks for another $1 super chat. He asked, TJump, if you lived in a society where everyone thought that slavery and removing rights were good, would you conclude that slavery is good?
No, I would just say there's no evidence for morality. So if there was no one who actually thought things were moral, then there would be no evidence for morality. So it could be the case that maybe there's evidence that for immorality in that case, but
All right, thanks so much for that. We just had a question come in from Tom Rabbit. It's to TJump. I'm not sure if there's any relation there, but he says to TJump, is letting all the murderers out of jail moral progress? It would be ending imposition on their free will.
if there was no risk to hurting anyone else, yeah, if there was no risk that they could, if we lived in the best of all possible worlds where it was impossible to harm anyone else, yeah, we should let them go.
All right, thanks so much for that. Next question from Pants L. Jones says, for TJ, oh no, I'm sorry, I've already asked that question. Next is Tasteless Opinion says, question for Godless. How does it feel to have wiped the floor with your opponent? Oh, taking shots at you, Tom, there.
Oh well, I actually, unlike other atheists, I would honestly say I did very good in the second half, and then faltered at the second. Or I mean, I did very good in the second half and faltered at the end. I'm extremely sleep deprived, so I abuse coffee very bad, and I haven't had sleep in a long time. But there's a bit you can look on my Times channel. We had a short debate before, and it was brutal. It was really brutal. I wiped the floor with him that time. I don't know how he felt then, but I honestly didn't do good the second half.
All right, thanks so much
But
for your.
I would love a rematch.
Yep, definitely second round. If Tom's cool with that.
Steve McRae wants to debate team on my team against you and someone else about morality.
Tom, that could be a cool future debate. I know you and Steve have kind of been looking for something to go at.
Sure.
All right, cool. All right, next question from Ask Yourself. Says, ask TJump how his objective morality, in quotes, is incompatible with any form of anti-realism, since all he's doing is making descriptive claims about what does or doesn't impose on will.
Again, I would say it follows the evidence. So I'm saying the descriptive claims are a result of the principle describing the evidence. So the evidence describes a thing in the world, presumably. The idea is that when we look at moral intuition and moral progress, and we plot out the evidence, it's describing something that exists. It could just be an abstract concept. That's perfectly fine too. But that something is what it's describing. So it wouldn't be an anti-realist thing, since it would actually exist, even as an abstract object. That's where the contradiction is.
All right, thanks so much for that. Our next question is from Excalibur. It says, is this just for entertainment so we can watch TJump gaslight his competitors and simply use the argument, it is just that way, so I win, like championship wrestling?
I never used that argument. So you could, if you find a quote, feel free to post me saying that.
Okay, thanks so much for that. TJump. We had a. Sorry, 1 second here. I'm jumping back and forth in the live chat so I can get the super chat pushed to the top of the list. We had a super chat from Nathan Artwork again. Thanks for your $2. Says, TJ, what is your opinion on GG's argument?
Our argument states that moral statements can't be true or false. That's a pretty common argument in philosophy. I don't know. I disagree with it, but it's not like it's an incoherent argument.
That's not stating that moral claims cannot be true or false. It's not an argument. That's the conclusion of a argument.
Right. So I can just state the conclusion and say, here's your position. And the argument
No, you
used to
can't.
justify the position.
He's asking you, what do you think of the argument? You
Right.
can't just say, well, I don't agree with the conclusion, right?
Sure I can. Like what?
No, he's asking you that would mean, like, do you think it's a good argument or a bad argument, and why?
Right. So I disagree with the conclusion. So I think it's a bad argument, but I don't think it's completely incoherent. It's not like it's unfounded. So it's an argument that's used in academia pretty often. So it's not a super terrible religious argument that God exists.
You don't think that there's arguments used in academia that are terrible?
There are, but usually not in the majority or consensus. So that argument is a fairly widely held position in academia. It's not a bad argument.
All right, thanks so much for that.
I just disagree with it.
Thanks so much for that answer. We have a question from John Robertson.
Wait, I'm sorry, can I ask TJump a question about that?
Sure.
Like the majority, I know one thing you do get right is the free will stuff. I think I saw that. So the majority of philosophers are compatibilists. What do you think of that? Does that mean that we should be compatibilists?
Compatibilism is just like a rebranding of determinism, so I don't know what.
It's saying that free will is compatible with determinism, which is not your position.
No, I agree with the majority of philosophers that compatibilism is true, but compatibilism is kind of like
I thought that you weren't a compatibilist. I'm sorry.
No, it's compatibilism is a kind of determinism. There's no actual free will there. It's still just a rebranding of determinism. There's no libertarian free will.
You think the compatibilists aren't saying that free will exists?
That's correct. They're just saying that a brain function in neurology, which is determined by physical forces, we're going to call that free will. That's what they're saying.
Wait, you think that it's not a compatibilist position that free will is compatible with determinism?
They're calling free will how our brain functions. So neurology, the purely deterministic forces of biology and our brain, where they're going to call that free will. It's still determinism. It's not a new thing. There's no new feature in compatibilism. It's still
but you disagree with them that that's free will.
You can call it free will. I don't disagree with them that exists. They're just calling it free will.
Are you a compatibilist?
I agree with everything in their position. I just don't use the word free will.
All right, so let's move on. That way we have, because we have so many questions, we'll try to keep brevity in mind. So next question from Ask Yourself says, when TJump says better, all he means is X does or doesn't maximize preferences. How are statements about what maximizes preferences incompatible with any type of anti-realism?
So again, the definitions here don't matter at all. What differentiates it between anti-realism is I'm stating there is evidence of moral intuition, moral progress, and these pieces of evidence indicate something that exists. It is not anti-real. It is not a fictional thing. It is a real thing. That's the difference. I mean, I don't know why Ask Yourself can't put this together. It's pretty simple. Like even Alex got this in like the first 5 seconds of the debate. Ask Yourself just doesn't understand this, is that if you're arguing that this evidence indicates a thing that exists, then it can't be not real. So that's why it's not like anti-realism. Anti-realism, not real. Realism, it's real. There's the thing, and the evidence indicates the thing.
You guys should debate it.
We did.
Yeah, they already have. That was an interesting discussion there. I think it was on Adam Fernand's channel, right?
No, I think it was on Discord. Ask Yourself Discord.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that.
Okay, I think
Did you win, Tom?
I don't know if anyone counts as a winner in that. It was pretty. It was like the Darth Dawkins debate, pretty much.
All right.
So I guess I won because I got lots of views.
For the sake of the questions, let's move on. Excalibur, another question says, anyone notice that TJump's eternal smile is leaving his face? TJump taking shots at you.
Is what it said? It was what his face?
Is leaving his face. I think he's saying that you were doing so well that TJump was starting to frown a little. So you got a fan out there, Godless Girl.
Oh.
S.J. Thomason says, Converse, how do you distinguish our moral intuitions of progress from our moral lawgiver?
What? So how do we distinguish?
How do you distinguish our moral intuitions of progress from a moral lawgiver? I believe it is.
I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'll give it a shot. So just looking at the evidence of moral intuition and moral progress, it doesn't say anything about whether there is or isn't a lawgiver. Like there could be a God that created this principle and it's grounded in God's nature potentially. Like that doesn't work because purely subjective to the God. So the Euthyphro dilemma proves that false. But it could be. So just the evidence indicates here's what the principle is, and it doesn't state anything about the ontology of whether it's grounded in a God or an abstract principle or a Platonic object. Any of those are possible. I tend to go with the abstract object thing because that there's no evidence that there is like a God at all. So that's how you would distinguish, is that there's just no evidence of a God. And if it was grounded in a God, then it would be arbitrary, as demonstrated by the Euthyphro dilemma. So I think that answers the question.
All right, thanks so much for that. John Robertson says that I might have missed his question. Actually, John, I did ask your question. I will give you TJump's response again. He said, TJump, what is the standard against which you call something better or worse, progress or regress?
Do you want me to answer it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's not the standard. You don't need the standard. That's the same question SJ just asked. Like, you can create a standard and say it's God's nature or a Platonic object or an abstract object. That isn't required for objective morality. You just need to describe a principle that the evidence indicates. And that's it. And so if I picked a standard, I would say pick an abstract object as a standard, and that would be my preferred kind of standard, but you don't need a standard.
All right, thanks so much for that. Some people are telling me my mic's really low, so I'm going to try and talk a little louder. We had a super chat come in from Fat Man. Says, did Gigi say that if a woman was sexually assaulted and had an orgasm, then the assault wasn't a bad thing?
Well, she would have, I just take good and bad to be preferences. So overall, she would have not preferred it. But I said that if she had an orgasm during it, then part of it would have been physically enjoyable. But no, I wouldn't say then she preferred it. So no.
All right, thanks so much for that. Looks like our next question is from, no, it's just a comment. Tasteless Opinion says, that's lame, TJ. Next from Pansel Jones again says, for TJ, when did you plot all moral intuition on a graph, and why don't you show this graph that contains all moral intuition?
Again, I'm just going with the consensus on the academic data there from philosophers on moral intuition. I didn't actually plot any of it. They did all the work.
All right, thanks so much for that. Ask Yourself says, tell Godless that all, if you impose on will your moral, means is if you impose on...
Can you repeat it? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Ask Yourself says, tell Godless that all, if you impose on will your moral, means is if you impose on will, you're imposing on will.
I'm sorry, I'm not following it.
Okay, he's critiquing Tom, but he's just telling you, like, hey, all that he means by if you impose on will your moral, all that means is if you impose on will, you're imposing on will.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
I think he's saying it's kind of a tautology. Maybe, Tom, do you want to...
Yeah, that is what I agree that it's a tautology.
Yeah, he's confusing the definitions with the argument that it exists. So if I say all I mean by tree is the tree, well, yes, but the tree actually has properties outside of the word. So the word, when I say impositions of will, yes, that means bad. And when I say bad, that means impositions of will. But the definition isn't the ontology of what it is. There's a separate kind of thing with ontology. So it has separate properties outside of the definition, namely it exists. That's the thing.
You guys need a rematch. You guys need a rematch.
All right, let's move on because we do have a ton of questions. I mean, we got almost 400 people watching. Stupid Horror Energies had a $5 super chat. Sorry, I missed that one. Says, question for Godless. Does moral non-cognitivism make any testable predictions as cognitivism does?
As testable predictions? I don't take it to be a scientific theory, so I don't know what that means.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't say it does. It's not a hypothesis. What the fuck?
All right, thanks so much for that response. We'll move on to our next question from Excalibur says, ask TJ if he is anti-vaccine. He says people should be forced to do anything they don't want to do.
If we lived in a world where there were no consequences for not getting vaccinated, then no, we should never, under any circumstance, force people to be vaccinated. The only reason it's justified is because it has consequences on other people. So
But
if
it's not. Wait, are those consequences bad though? Because you just take bad to mean the imposition of will.
right, so yes, the consequences would also be impositions of will. So like if you don't get vaccinated and you get a disease and it spreads to other people and they die, that is an imposition on their will. So that's also bad.
All right.
You're saying the virus would be an imposition on their will?
Anything that imposes on their will, like anything that kills them, is an imposition on their will. So yes.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much for those responses. We had a $5 super chat come in from Ask Yourself. He says, from _JHC for TJump. How does he know we are morally progressing and not morally regressing?
With absolute certainty, I don't have absolute certainty. I just have a probabilistic induction belief. Looks like we're.
He didn't ask about your level of certainty is the level of confidence. He didn't ask about your level of confidence.
He said
asked how
no.
you know.
He said no, and so
yeah,
by
so
no,
knowledge is like what justifies your beliefs. So he's asking you, what is it? How do you know? Like, what is the justification?
the evidence of moral intuition and moral progress from the same thing that philosophers use. So that is a justified belief. It isn't absolute certain because that's the thing. When he asks those knowledge questions, he's asking those absolute certainty questions. And I'm just saying, no, I don't need that. I can be justified with just the same evidence we have in philosophy.
You think that when somebody asks, how do you know something, they're asking a question about absolute certainty?
Yes, that is a very common thing to happen.
All right, thanks so much for that response. We'll move on. We have Kyle's lawyer with another $2 super chat. Says, God is the abstract object. Thanks so much for that, Kyle's lawyer.
And that actually, I would agree. If theists argued that God was an abstract object, I would probably think their arguments are perfectly fine.
That it exists?
As an abstract object.
Like just the conception of God as an abstract object?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that would definitely make for an interesting conversation. But we'll move on to Tasteless Opinion. Says, Converse, a question for ask yourself. Okay, well, since you've been... All right, so we'll move on because he's not here. But ask yourself has actually the next question. It says, tell Godless that all... okay, so he just re-put that in. We've already read that. All right, Adam Friended says, many people see moral progress as moral decay. What evidence do you have that they are wrong? I
would again just go with the same evidence that the philosophers use in the majority of what people see as moral intuition and moral progress seems to be increasing.
All right, thanks so much for that. Our next question is from John Robertson again for TJump. Is imposition of will always immoral?
Yes.
All right, thanks so much.
Involuntary. Involuntary imposition of will, because imposition of will can be voluntary, and in case it wouldn't be immoral. Okay. So it's only if it's involuntary.
Okay, because he said, okay, I got you. Perfect. So only if it's involuntary, sure. All right, Logos Theos question for TJump. How do you determine what is a morally bad action?
By seeing if it has an involuntary imposition of will.
All right, thanks so much. Kyle's lawyer, another $2 super chat. Thanks for your contributions. He says, TJump, ontology equals exist.
Yes. The study of what exists. Yes.
All right. Thanks so much for that. Stephen Steen says, Converse, there are 6B, should be like 68 or something, but let's say 68 religious people whose moral intuition says Tom is wrong. If this is all the evidence we have, bad or good, why isn't that evidence of God?
Because if you're arguing for God as an abstract concept that exists in the mind, that's perfectly reasonable. So it's what you're claiming. Like if I'm imagining a unicorn, that's perfectly reasonable. But if I say a unicorn exists and I saw it, that's not reasonable. So it's the level of the claim. If I'm claiming morality is an abstract object, something in our heads, then the fact that people intuitively feel it is perfectly justifiable evidence. If I'm claiming like morality is a super powerful being that had created the universe, then the intuition of morality would not be sufficient.
Okay, so he clarified 6 billion he meant. Okay, gotcha. But your response still applies. So he'll move on. He said, follow up, What testable predictions has Tom documented with his model? It's the only thing that is evidence.
Yes, testable predictions are great. So my testable predictions are that in the future, as moral progress continues to change in a certain way, then we will begin to see things like traffic lights will be immoral. We'll be able to increase the scope of a moral claim until it gets to any involuntary imposition of will is immoral. That'll be the end point of morality. And as we continue to go on, we'll be able to see more crimes like mistreating children in certain ways that we do, like spanking or something. Spanking used to be thought of as moral or justified, and now it's starting to be seen as more immoral. And so, as moral progress increases, we'll have more and more examples of that, where any kinds of imposition on will, even the small or mundane ones, will begin to be seen as immoral by people. That is the future testable predictions of my model.
All right, thanks so much. If we'll try and get to these as quick as possible. Just answer as quick as you can because we have so many. Ask yourself says at Godless Girl, good is just a synonym for maximized preference. All forms of anti-realism can agree there are facts of the matter about what maximizes preferences. Either one you guys want to take a stab at that, or you want to?
Yeah, so again, he's just confusing the description of the definition with what the definition is referring to. It's just confusing the map for the territory fallacy. It's just when the word tree is synonymous with the same word in other languages, but that doesn't mean that the trees only have the properties of the languages. There's an external thing there more than just the language. So he's confusing the map for the territory over and over again because he just doesn't know the difference.
I actually don't think that there could be I think there's cases in which there's not a fact of the matter or what would maximize the preference also.
All right, thanks so much for that. We had 2 super chats just roll in. Adam Friender with $5 says, what kind of evidence do your philosophers provide? Testimonial evidence? Who are these philosophers?
I don't have their names memorized. You can just Google the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on Moral Progress and Moral Realism, and you can go through the links and find out what their evidence is, and their papers are all listed there. Yeah, it's mostly, again, just the evidence of moral intuition, moral progress throughout societies, throughout time. Those are the 2 grounds of evidence we have for moral realism.
All right, thanks so much for that. Looks like we might have lost Godless Girl, at least your video. I'll answer your questions until we figure out what happened there. Yeah. Godless Girl, if you could hear me, maybe jump out and come back in. Question from, we have a super chat from Stupid Whore Energy, and she asked, X was a good person, and no good person would kill millions of people. Ergo, X would not kill millions of people. Testable predictions, and not all science makes testable predictions. Thanks so much for that. It wasn't a question, but more of a statement.
I think it was a response to what Gigi said to her in the last one.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll move on. We have Godless Girl, are you there? Hey, Godless Girl. Looks like she's back. Are you able to hear me, Godless Girl?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, you're good to go.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, thanks so much for that super chat. We had a super chat come in from Troids117 says, for 5 CAs, just ask him, as cultural preferences change, does morality change with it?
I would say no. I would say the cultural preferences changing is actually evidence of what the objective morality is. So it's changing in a specific direction that we can plot out and see where it's going.
All right, thanks so much for that. $20 super chat from Ayush Gupta says, what does the name Gary Milne mean to you? Not sure about that one. Maybe that's like one of those like where there's a joke in there.
It's somebody's docs.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, is that? Oh, I think I know what it means.
I'd love to be in on an inside joke one day. Michael Scott. All right, we'll move on to our next question. Comes from Stephen Steen, question for Tom: How can how can objective moral framework not be prescriptive by definition?
Because it can be descriptive. You can say if someone does an immoral action, then they're labeled as this is immoral. It doesn't need to be prescriptive at all. It can just say it describes the occurrences. Like, there's no problem with that. Like, you can take any kind of prescription and change it to a descriptive statement. Just take out the ought and replace it with an is.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for that. We have Labzer says, Converse, how does TJump's moral system work with homosexuality, especially considering the differences in people's moral intuition?
It treats homosexuality exactly the same as asexuality and heterosexuality. There's no difference at all. It is not immoral to be homosexual. It is not in any way any different from any other kind of sexual preference. It's just normal. You get to have that preference. There's nothing immoral about it at all.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tom. We had another super chat come in from Philip Servanjek. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. $5 or 5 A's, whatever that is. Question for both. Did you think that a lot of this debate around moral realism was just arguing about semantics and how we should best label things? All right. Go ahead.
I think that, no, I don't think it was about semantics, actually. Not the topic of the debate, that wasn't about semantics, but we did end up in semantical issues with semantics in parts of the debate.
All right, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
I agree.
Tom, you agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to reread Stupid Whore Energy's last super chat because Godless Girl had went out, and it was a response to her, so she asked me if I would reread it now that she's back. I'm going to do that now. $10 super chat says, X, quotations, X was a good person, and no good person would kill millions of people. Ergo, X would not kill millions of people. Testable prediction, and not all science makes testable predictions. Got a response to that?
I think maybe is that the same person that had asked me if it makes predictions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not a prediction. It would just be true by definition that if person X doesn't whatever, then it would just be by definition that they wouldn't do them.
All right, thanks so much for that response.
It's not a prediction. It's just it seems to necessarily follow that would be true. It's not that it would be a prediction.
Okay, thanks so much for that. John Robertson again says, for Tom, if the majority of people intuit forcing people to do something is good, does that make it moral?
No. Again, the intuition is just the evidence. It's not actually the morality itself. It's the same thing. Ask yourself was confusing. It's not about, the intuition isn't the thing, isn't morality. The intuition is just evidence of morality.
All right, thanks so much for that. Our next question comes from Excalibur. Says, Converse, ask her if she does drugs. By the way, TJump did a typical horrible job. Sad. So attacking both people equally. This guy's relentless and just going in. So I don't know if anybody wants to.
Oh, well, I don't perceive it as an attack. I have a long drug history, but I'm sober right now.
Well, that's really good news. And Tom, did you want to have any response or anything to that?
No.
All right, thanks so much for that. Response, Tasteless Opinion says, Converse, a question for TJump. How he knows that we are progressing and not... Okay, so that question came up again. We've already asked that question, so we'll move on. Let's see. Our next question comes from Jeremy Taylor. TJump, if you lived in a society where everyone thought that slavery was good and a worldwide variety of imposing will are good, would you conclude that slavery is good?
Possibly.
Right.
Well, how could you conclude it as good if slavery is an imposition on will, and by definition, what's good is a non-imposition?
Because my definition just follows.
What?
my definition just follows the evidence. So I take all moral intuition and moral progress and plot it out on a graph. And so if all the intuition and moral progress said slavery was good, and that's the evidence I was using, then that would come to the conclusion slavery was good. So if you change all of the evidence and make it exactly the opposite of the evidence we have now, then that would lead to the opposite conclusion that I have now.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I mean, I can respond to that, but there's a lot of questions, right? So we want to move on.
Yeah, we do have a time.
Okay.
All right, so S.J. Thompson, thank you so much for your super chat. $2 says, Tom, are moral oughts prescriptive or descriptive?
They're prescriptive. I don't have any oughts in my model, though.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tom. Troy's 117 with $5 CA says, how do we know when we have reached objective morality when using intuition?
When there is essentially when it's gone, we no longer have any kind of moral intuition because it's just the way things are, essentially.
All right. Ryder John Buck says, Tom, for $2, says, for Tom, do you accept the law of non-contradiction?
In most cases, yes. In some cases, no.
All right. Thanks so much for that. Frank92 says, can't wait for the book, TJump. $2. Thanks so much for that, Frank92.
Yeah, I actually
You have a
have.
book?
I have a publisher lined up, so it's supposed to be published within the next year or something like that.
About what?
It's a debate between me and a Christian on morality and the existence of God kind of stuff.
All right. Thanks so much for that. We'll be looking for it, TJump. Mr. Corpus Collapsum says, question for TJ. If the majority of the majority of the human society decides slavery was good and intuitively would that, okay, so that's the same question from a different person. You did kind of already answer.
Well, no,
that.
that's a different question.
Okay.
So if we took all of the evidence we have now, which is indicating that non-imposition of will is good, and then we add in, like, if everyone tomorrow just completely flipped, that would be evidence to add to the set, but it would still only make it go down like a little bit. It wouldn't change it significantly because everyone throughout all history has thought the opposite. So it would be evidence that we would have to account for, but it wouldn't completely change the model. It would just be a change in direction, a slight change.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks so much for that, TJump. Let's see. Pansel Jones says, for TJ, if there were no minds, it wouldn't be true that minds are conscious because they wouldn't even exist. You can't have objective facts without minds. About minds without minds. Sorry about that.
Right. If there were no minds, you couldn't have objective facts about minds, which means since there are minds, you have objective facts about minds which are contingent on minds. So yes, I agree with that completely.
All right, thanks so much. We'll move on. We have a question from Patreon question from Brian Stevens. Says to Godless Girl, what is your best? Okay, so we've already answered. Yeah, so we've already asked that one, and she did answer it. Pansel Jones again for TJ. So which is required for evidence? Future testable predictions or lots of people see it, so it's reasonable to believe as evidence?
Those would both be kinds of evidence. Future testable predictions is evidence of if you want to show something exists outside of the human mind, you need future testable predictions. If you just want to show something exists in the mind, like an abstract object, then testimony is sufficient. So they're both evidence, but it's dependent upon the claim you're making.
All right, thanks so much. Underscore JHC Converse. How does TJump know we are morally progressing and not morally regressing? Okay, so I think actually somebody super chatted this question in for them, and you already answered it. I think Ask Yourself did that.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same question. Just look at the evidence of philosophers. Just Google moral realism and moral progress, and then you can find the papers that argue for it.
All right, thanks so much for that. S.J. Thomason says, how does Tom explain our conscious when our conscious calls us to react beyond our intuition, such as a soldier taking a bullet for another?
That would be a kind of intuition. The fact that he would take a bullet for another would be an intuitive thing he felt. I don't know what exactly that means.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tom. We just have a few more, so we'll try and get to these last ones as quick as possible.
Are there way more than usual?
There are quite a lot, yeah. But we have over 400 people watching, so that's why they keep rolling in like by the second. Like we just got another super chat that just came in from Charles Insolo says, for 4.99, does objective morality depend on a society agreeing to the objective, like non-imposition or general well-being?
No, it's not dependent upon what a society says. The society is just evidence of what it is. So the society sees it, and we count that as evidence for the objective morality, but it isn't dependent on the society.
All right, thanks so much for that. S.J. Thomason says, rape is always wrong, but to animals it's permissible. Why do
No.
we why do we have morals and animals don't if evolution explains our morals?
Well, animals do have morals. Like all of the morals we have are also found in animal societies all throughout the world. So they do have morals. It's just like when we had someone with a big gun who could just rape whoever they wanted to, we couldn't stop them. We still didn't like them. And animals feel the same way. There's no difference there. All of the animals have the same kind of evolutionary morals we do, just not to the same level of consciousness. But morality applies independently of whether or not we have it. I think that answers. I think that was her question.
Yeah,
It's like,
I think what she's
animals.
saying is like how sharks they call it forced copulation, but it's really I mean it's rape. I think she's saying like if what's the difference between them doing that and us doing it? If it's immoral, shouldn't it be immoral for them as well as us?
Yeah, I'd say it's immoral for them also. So
Okay.
I'd say they also apply. But yeah, the reason they have it is the same reason we have it, which is evolution. Animals do have morals.
All right, thanks so much for that. Next question is from Brian Stevens. Modern day debate follow up. In your worldview, how do you define something as good or bad? I guess this will be for both.
I define it as bad as an involuntary imposition of will and good as a voluntary assistance of will.
All right, Godless Girl?
Can you repeat it? Sorry, real quick.
Yeah, sure. Um, in your worldview, how do you define something as good or bad?
Oh, I think that when somebody says something is good or bad, when morally good or bad, they're just expressing their preference.
All right, thanks so much for that. Jeremy Taylor says, TJump, if you lived in a society, so we've already had that question that came in again. Next question from Excalibur says, looks like they both believe the same thing and no one is narcissistic and the other drugs. This is why neither should debate Hovind. Agree? So we'll skip past that because I think it's more of just a comment. Andrew T says, can I tell both debaters that he said hey? And he asked me
Hey.
to debate him. Okay, no problem. Amy Newman, for Godless Girl, do you think our laws should be based on morality? If not, what should they be based on?
Models based on preference. She said models.
Yeah, should our
Laws.
laws be based
Laws?
on? Yeah,
Do I think models should be based on laws? Should be based on preferences.
on morality.
Well, that's what morality.
Yeah,
I
sure.
take morality to
Gotcha.
be. Well, I wouldn't say that something I wouldn't make a claim about the way the world ought to be. So
All right,
the answer is neither is one.
All right, thanks so much for that. Sunday Worship says, is Kent Hovind going to be debating against a T-Rex on Thursday, May 14th? I would hope so. I don't think so, but I would love to see that if that could be possibly happen. All right, Brenda finally got to your question. Says, please, can I ask what evidence would contradict Tom's claim? TJ?
Yeah, it'd be like the examples the people listed earlier. Like if everyone tomorrow started to believe that slavery was good or something, that would contradict my model. That's one example.
All right, thanks so much for that. Kyle's lawyer, $2 super chat says, how do you map morality linearly, TJ?
We would look at it over a scale of time and the amount of imposition of will imposed by a society in certain contexts at different times. So like the abolition of slavery would then be one point of time on a line and then another point of time on the line where there was no abolition of slavery or where slavery was abolished, and that would be a transition up on the scale of morality on the left-hand side. That's how you would do it.
All right, thanks for that. He also had another question. TJ, All right, nope. Uh, it looks like the exact same question. All right, so we'll move on to our next question, which was from David Donahue for TJump. Is morality objective? How come the graph of moral data from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago is different from objective morality today?
The same reason the graph for climate change is different 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago is that there's different data, so it only plotted to a specific point. And then as we had more years, we have more data, and then we can plot it more accurately.
All right, thanks for that. Brendan says, what is the evidence that would falsify Tom's moral theory?
The same thing. So it would be like if everyone throughout all history thought slavery was good or something, or if everyone from tomorrow on forever thought that it was good, that would falsify the theory.
All right, thanks so much, Tom. David Donahue for TJump. If someone is trying to commit suicide, is involuntary imposition of their will still immoral?
No, it would be moral to help them, like in the case of euthanasia. If someone wants to die, then it's moral to help them die.
All right, thanks so much for that, Tom. Jane Stewart. Converse, can you ask TJump if you are going to simplify morality, good, to helping someone, then doesn't that mean if you help your best friend kill somebody, you are being morally good?
No, because that would be an involuntary imposition on the will of the person you killed. So that would be immoral to do that. Even if it would be moral to help your friend do whatever your friend wants to do, it's also going to be immoral to kill a person. So, no.
All right, thanks so much for that. Excalibur says TJump needs to go back to college and take a few statistics classes. He obviously was gaslighting his friends and not paying attention. TJump, this guy's relentless.
I don't know. I don't know what statistics he thought I was misrepresenting there. I have no idea.
All right, thanks so much. Pants L. Jones says, for TJ, you can't have objective facts without minds. Therefore, those facts are not objective, you dolt.
Yeah, so I already proved that wrong. Remember, there was somebody in the comments who actually made the thing that if minds exist, they have consciousness. So that's an objective fact about minds. But if minds don't exist, then it's not a fact anymore. So it's an objective fact that is contingent on minds, proving that statement wrong.
All right, thanks so much. Tasteless Opinion says, TJump, how is you losing this debate in the way you did not immoral?
Immorality is an involuntary imposition of will, as far as I know. There has been no involuntary imposition of will, so it wouldn't be immoral.
All right, thanks so much. I think we've got one more question. Nope, that's it. Well, no, hold on, I'm sorry. I've got one more here. Pants L. Jones wanted to clarify and said, TJump, you can't have objective facts about minds without minds. Therefore, those facts are not objective, you dolt.
No, it's still the case that they're objective. Like, for example, we have objective facts about the Earth, but if the Earth didn't exist, then they wouldn't be objective. It's still an objective fact that the Earth exists, so it's still an objective fact. Like the Earth is round, that's an objective fact. If the Earth didn't exist, then it wouldn't be, but it's still an objective fact that the Earth is round. So the same thing applies to minds. Like you could have objective facts about minds. I mean, if they didn't exist, they wouldn't be facts anymore. It's totally fine. No problem there.
All right, TJump, thanks so much for that. I want to thank both of the contenders for coming on tonight and giving their side. And I want to thank everybody else for showing up. And if you would, please, we had a lot of people here tonight. Please hit that like button on your way out because there's a low percentage, unfortunately, because I'm sure you guys like these types of debates. Let's see some likes. And subscribe if you haven't already. We try to make this an unbiased platform for everybody to get their thoughts and beliefs across. And as always, keep sifting the reasonable from the unreasonable.